Hey, this is Ruth L. Snyder joining you from Get Clients, Build Community. Today I want to talk to you about my own Twitter stories and why I am so excited about helping you build your Twitter following and use it to grow leads for your book sales or audience or clients or whatever you need to use Twitter for to get sales. Get Clients, Build Community is on a mission. Our mission is to bring inspiration and innovation to authors, coaches, and entrepreneurs around the world. Get Clients, Build Community would like to introduce some of our services. We offer coaching packages, individual coaching or group coaching to help you get from dream to done. We also offer courses from book idea to first draft in 30 days. 5-day challenge and program. Turn Twitter into your lead generation machine using Twitter Spaces. Professional book formatting, providing you with publisher-ready files. Personalized marketing plan, a powerful plan to get clients and build community that suits your personality. We strive for excellence in everything we do, and it shows. If you're looking to write, publish, and or profit from your books, we can help. Thanks for joining me today. As I mentioned, I'm Ruth L. Snyder, and my company is Get Clients, Build Community. And I think it's important that those two things go together, that you are not only focused on getting clients, but that you are also focused on building that community, because as we work together, we are way more effective. We're able to collaborate, support, encourage, and make authority for one another. So how did I get my start on Twitter? It goes way back to when I entered a writing contest. I had 5 children, ages 1 to 11, and I thought that their stories should be shared. My children are all adopted. And so I entered a writing contest and I won. And the prize was a writing conference in Ontario. So I flew to Ontario from Alberta, not knowing anyone, walked in feeling like a total fraud, and yet knowing that if I won a writing contest, and it was Canada-wide, so if I won this contest, maybe I am a writer and maybe I do need to use my abilities to share messages with other people. But how am I going to fit it into my busy schedule when I have 5 young children and I'm busy being a mom? One of the authors who was at the conference empathized with me, and she said, "Ruth, why don't you use Twitter as your mini blog?" I wasn't that familiar with Twitter at that point. It was in 2009, and Twitter was fairly new at that point. You were only allowed 144 characters to share whatever you were going to share. But I decided to take her challenge, and that did several things for me. Number one, it taught me how to communicate succinctly and well, because I had to be really intentional about how I communicated through those 144 characters. Number two, it also helped me to be consistent. It was a very small thing that I could do every day and yet build my content and practice writing and get my message out there. And number three, it taught me the power of Twitter. At that time, I was also working on our local school board as a trustee, and we were advocating for 2 new schools in Lac La Biche. We had gone through all the usual process that was required of school board trustees. We had, people come in and assess the facilities that we wanted to replace. We had put it on our capital plan for several years. We had talked to our local MLA. We had done everything that we were supposed to do to get the process going, and we were very happy to hear that our projects had been approved. However, as often happens in those situations, we were also told, finances are tight right now, and so yes, we have approved your projects, but we are not going to be able to build the schools that you've asked for. They're going to have to be scaled back a bit. Our superintendent and other staff members did everything that they could. We continued to advocate with our MLA, and one day our superintendent came to a board meeting and told us, I don't know what else to do. It's at a standstill. So we talked around the board table, and I asked, is it okay if I put out some tweets? After some discussion, it was agreed that there was really nothing else that we knew to do. And so I was given permission to send out those tweets. And I had learned that certain hashtags received attention from certain people. And two of those hashtags were ABLEG for Alberta Legislature and ABED for Alberta Education. So those were two hashtags that I used in my tweets. And I was very careful how I worded it. I wanted to catch attention, but I wanted to do it in a way that was not disrespectful, but was saying, hey, this is what you promised. This is what we're being told we can have. And there's a big difference. So what can we do to solve that problem? As far as we know, nothing else changed. And the next morning, our superintendent received a phone call from Alberta Education, and the schools went forward, and we received 2 schools, and they were at the scope of what we had asked for. So at that point, I was hooked. I realized that Twitter was powerful if you used it correctly. We have all experienced Twitter being used incorrectly and been annoyed by people that use it to just blast other people, or they go on there when they're angry and say things that they shouldn't say. But if you use Twitter correctly, it can be very powerful. And that was the first instance when I realized it could be powerful. The second time that I realized Twitter could be powerful was when I wrote my book called Learn Twitter. And I had thought that I would be writing a totally different genre when I first wrote my books. But people started asking me, they saw that I knew how to use Twitter and they didn't understand how it worked. And so they started asking me to write a book to tell them or show them how they could learn to use Twitter effectively. That book came out, and I was able to get that book into the hands of a couple thousand people very quickly. And again, Twitter was the way that that happened. And so I strongly recommend to authors and entrepreneurs and business people who want to get their message out to use Twitter. When we had some political leaders that were abusing Twitter, it kind of turned me off from Twitter for a while, but I decided to go back on a few months ago and just investigate what was happening with Twitter. And one of the things that I was curious about was the whole area of social audio. You may be familiar with Clubhouse. It's a standalone platform, and it came out first for iOS users, but it is available to all people now. And it is a social audio platform that you can go on. You can hold meetings, you can have discussions, you can do a variety of things. And I did try Clubhouse, but I wasn't pulled in like I was when the first time I tried Twitter Spaces. So Twitter Spaces is Twitter's equivalent to Clubhouse. Keith Keller from Australia is the person that invited me to try Twitter Spaces, and he hosts spaces on a regular basis. And so he told me when his next space was being hosted, and he invited me to come and check it out. So I attended. Like I said, he's from Australia, but the evening that I attended, I heard people speaking from Australia, from the United Kingdom, from the United States, from Canada, from Africa, from Thailand, and there may have been other places represented, but those are the ones that jumped out at me. During the discussion, there was a fellow on who originally grew up in the Sudan, but he lives in Texas now. And some of the things he said drew my attention because I spent my early years in Africa. And so after the Twitter space was over, I reached out to him through direct message on Twitter, and I was able to ask him some questions and learn more about him. And he told me that his dream is to make education available to people in the Sudan and other places around the world where they may not be able to physically go to school. And the thing about Twitter Spaces is you not only meet interesting people and people that you probably would never meet in person, but you also, because it's right on the Twitter platform, you're able to send out direct messages while you're in the Twitter space. You're able to send tweets out while you're in the Twitter space. And then you're also able to follow up with people afterwards. And I have found that Twitter Spaces is a great way to grow my following, because you can follow anyone that is participating in the Twitter space that you're in. And it's also a wonderful way to have a discussion with people all across the globe. I don't know of any other venue that makes that possible. With Zoom or StreamYard, StreamYard is mostly a one-way communication. I mean, you can bring up to 10 people onto the platform with you. Zoom, you have to send invites out to people. With Twitter Spaces, anybody that's on Twitter can see at the top of their account what Twitter Spaces are happening. And so even if they're not following you, they can see that and they can join your space. So there are many ways that people that are not following you can join your Twitter space and interact with you. I want to invite you to come join me on Facebook, January 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, and 14th, 5 days. I will be offering a free Facebook challenge to help you get on Twitter and Twitter Spaces and use Twitter as your lead generation machine. I am so excited to help you get clients and grow your business and build your community. So join me. You'll find the link below. I'm going to cover basic tips to help make sure that your account is set up properly. We are going to have opportunities for interaction with one another. We're going to have live Q&A sessions. I am going to take you on to Twitter Spaces so that you can experience Twitter Spaces in the audience. And I will even help somebody become co-hosts with me so that you can experience that piece if you'd like. So I hope that you will join me. Again, the link is below. Go sign up and we will see you on January 10th. This is Ruth L. Snyder from Get Clients, Build Community. I look forward to seeing you on January 10th.